Welcome to Tilted Perceptions Podcast number 8, starring me, Jimmy B. Hope everybody's having a great day today. For episode 8, what I'm going to get into is my story again. I kind of told my story on episode 1, but the sound wasn't right. It cut in and out a lot. So I'm going to kind of retell my story in a sense so you get to know me better and focus in on the psychosis part of my story, when I was really lost in my mind from all the drugs I'd done. So let's get into it. I am an alcoholic. I'm an addict. I have an addictive personality. I have been clean and sober since June 13th, 2007, which puts me in year 17, which is pretty cool. I honestly didn't think that I would ever get sober, and I damn well didn't think that I would stay sober this long. I was 26 when I got sober. I had ran my life into the ground at an early age, and I was done. I was tired of living the way I was living. You know, we carry a lot of stuff with us from childhood. I didn't realize the impact that that stuff had on my life, but after doing lots of work on myself and looking back after the fact, it played a huge part in why I drank and used the way that I did. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. I am screwed because once I put any mind-altering substance into my body, it triggers an allergy which demands that I have more, and I go along with it. But I also drink and use to not feel what I'm feeling. All the internal stuff that's going on inside of me, I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how to talk about it. I don't know how to express my feelings. I don't know how to say what's going on with me. And so I just stuff and internalize everything. And that's kind of the moral of my story is I internalize everything. I don't know how to cope. I have no coping mechanisms. I have no solution. So I gravitate towards anything that will bring me any sort of relief. But when I was living my life in my childhood, I didn't see it as a problem. But I feel like most of us have stuff that we haven't dealt with, and that's kind of what doing work on ourselves does for us. Is it helps uncover all those things in ourselves, which are blocking us from spirituality. And I had quite a few of those things. I'm an open book. Um, I'm pretty transparent and honest and vulnerable. I learned how to be that way. I Yeah, I'll talk about a few of them. So the biggest void in my early life was not having my dad around. My dad, rest in peace, he died quite a number of years ago at 46 years old. I think I was about 23 at the time he died, and I'm 43 now, so that's 20 years ago, a long time ago. But he died from cirrhosis of the liver and, you know, slammed a lot of dope and did a bunch of drugs and stuff like that. He just tore himself up from drugs and alcohol. So he passed away, and he was never around. Like, honestly, I maybe seen my dad 100 days out of 23 years of my life before he died. So he was just never there. He abandoned my mom when she was pregnant with me. And so there was this huge void of just not having a dad. I was raised by my mom. I have a younger sister. I, my mom did the best she could. I didn't have a terrible childhood, but there's certain things that, just that stuck with me, and I didn't know how to deal with, and it followed me all the way into my adult years. Um, my mom didn't have the greatest picker in men. She picked, uh, for lack of a better term, some dirtbags that abused her, you know, verbally, mentally, sometimes physically. And so I never really felt safe in my own home. I was always scared. I was uncomfortable in my skin. I honestly feel like food was my first drug. Would eat all the junk and candy and stuff that I could get my hands on. It's like a coping mechanism, and just stuff my face. And as a result of eating terrible and eating way too much as a kid, you gain weight. And when you gain weight as a kid, you get picked on and bullied when you go to school because other kids are mean. It's just how it is. And so I got picked on and bullied. I got beat up, just for being fat. So that sucks, and that adds to my fear and insecurity, and I don't know how to deal. And I used to pretend like I was sick because I didn't want to go to school, because I was afraid of confrontation. I was afraid of getting beat up again. Um, it sucked. I had this sexual thing happen to me when I was 4. That's all I'll say on here. Um, Things that shouldn't happen to a 4-year-old happened. Um, and another thing when I was a little older, like 8. But I'm not going to get into that. But just um, yeah. So that stuff sits with you, and I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how to talk about it. I don't know how to say that everything's not okay. I just internalize and stuff everything. I just stuff it down. I never wanted to see the light of the day. I feel embarrassed. I, you know, I'm super shy when I'm a kid. And probably the last big traumatic thing before I discovered drugs and alcohol in my life was I went to go visit my estranged dad that I hardly ever seen. Every once in a while, my mom would let me go visit him during the summer for a couple of weeks where he was living, and I didn't understand why I couldn't see him that often back then, but I understand why now, especially having kids of my own. Um, I mean, he was always drunk and loaded, you know, majority of the time, even when I'd go to visit him. So I can understand my mom not wanting me to be around that. If I was in the thick of my disease like I was, and I had kids, I wouldn't want them to see me like that. So I can understand. But anyways, I went to go visit him, and on this trip there, I won't get into the details, but so I can kind of speed this story up a little bit. I got um, I witnessed a murder. I seen somebody get shot in the face, probably 15 feet away from me, and that is pretty traumatic. If we seen somebody get shot in the face today, we would be traumatized, let alone at 12, 13 years old. So that was kind of like the segue for me into drugs and alcohol. I actually didn't tell my family back at home that I witnessed this murder, and you know, my dad should have said something to him, but he didn't, and I'm sure he was fearful that um, they wouldn't let me see him anymore, and I was fearful of the same thing, so I kind of kept it a secret when I went back to California and didn't even mention it to my family that I had witnessed this murder. And one day, you know, at my grandpa's house, a group of FBI agents came up to the driveway and knocked on the door and subpoenaed me for witness to murder. And so I had to let the cat out of the bag. And anyways, um, so that was a lot to take on as a young adolescent kid. All that stuff that I kind of mentioned just sat with me internally. I didn't know how to deal, and so that's also around the age that kids start experimenting with things. And as soon as I found, alcohol or other forms of alcohol like weed or whatever, I gravitated towards that, and I could not get enough. It brought me relief. Um, it helped me not feel, and that's exactly what I was looking for. I did not want to feel. And I'm a kid, and I'm just, hanging out with people that doing the same type of things, and the neighborhood where I grew up, everybody kind of knows everybody, and um, everybody just kind of parties, and we do what we do, and we did a lot of it. And yeah, and so my disease progressed. Some of my friends that I drank and used with in my teenage years, when it was time to get their lives together and handle business, they could do that. And I kind of went the alternate route. I could never handle my business or get my life back in order. It was always progressed, and it always got worse. And yeah, especially when I discovered alcohol. I started off smoking a lot of weed. I was just a pothead. I smoked weed damn near every day. Um, just got blitzed out of my mind. And then when I discovered alcohol, it was like the magical elixir that solved my problems. And it helped me come out of my shell. It helped me not be so shy, helped me talk to girls. It helped me in a lot of ways, but the main thing that it did for me was it took away all the internal stuff temporarily. And I wanted to stay that way. And I drank for oblivion every time I picked up a drink. There was never enough, and I was the type of drinker that would slam a fifth in one drink, or, drink a swamp juice in two chugs, or just do way too much. Drink 30 beers and 10 shots and walk around and drink people under the table and stuff like that, like super proud of how much I could drink. And, you know, a lot of my friends love partying too. And I know a lot of them have love for me or had love for me. But at a certain point, once you would have too many drinks, it's almost like you got to babysit me, and help me get home and not get into a fight or do something stupid, and I blacked out a lot. I was a blackout drinker and a binge drinker, you know, and I don't know the exact number. I like to say 85%, probably around 85% of the time I blacked out and don't remember everything or don't remember a lot. Sometimes don't remember anything at all. And yeah, and then I would try to piece my night together uh, from what happened the night before, and I would call people that I was with, and some of them wouldn't even want to talk to me. It's like, you don't know what you did, and I'm like, I have no clue. I was just a wreck. I was a disaster. Always trying to find the next hit or the next bag or whatever. I experimented with a lot of different drugs in my high school years, and right out of high school, whatever you had, I would do. I just never did anything with needles. But if it was pills, if it was ecstasy, if it was mushrooms, if it was acid, if it was cocaine, if it was meth, whatever it was, if you had some, I would try it. I would do it. Um, and alcohol was like the mainstay, alcohol and weed, and then during the course of my drug and alcohol career, if it was time to get a job, I could quit the weed if I had to. Um, but I could not, put the alcohol down. I was just always alcohol dominated my life. Um, and then in the end, though, it transferred to methamphetamine. I remember I was partying at a house party, super drunk, and some people were hitting some meth out of the glass pipe, right? And somebody's like, "Here, hit this, Jimmy." And so I had him light it for me, and I took a hit, and I almost instantaneously sobered up. And I thought it was the best thing in the world. I thought, man, this is awesome. I found something that can help me sober up. So if I get too drunk, I can just take a hit or two of this stuff, and I can drink more. And that was my thought process. Little did I know that that thought process was going to lead me into a tangent of becoming an everyday meth addict. And that's kind of what happened. Meth overpowered everything after it was just a matter of time. I like to say that, it was every once in a while after that. If somebody had it at a house party, then it was like every other weekend, then it was like every weekend, and then pretty soon it was every day. And I was living a double life. I didn't want my friends to know that I was a tweaker, that I was smoking meth. So I would drink alcohol and smoke weed during the day with those groups of friends. And then when the sun went down and the moon came out, I would go on these meth tangents, hanging out in different garages or in my bedroom playing video games and just smoking a shit ton of meth, and living that life and dealing with shady characters and shady people, because that's a whole nother realm of addiction when you get into the meth tangents. And yeah, it progressed, and kind of what really catapulted me and threw me to my bottom was when my grandfather died, my grandpa Leon. I looked at him. He was like the father figure in my life. He was a great man, and I lived with him, and I felt extremely ashamed and guilty when I was drunk and loaded in his house under his roof. Um, and I know he always wanted what's best for me, and I just felt like I was a failure, and I lost my job in the union, and I just, I couldn't keep a job, and I just lived to drink and I lived to use, and I know he worried about me constantly, and I didn't really have much of a relationship with him. I in the last few years, because what is there to talk about when I'm drunk and loaded all the time and I'm ashamed and guilty? I feel really bad about that still, to this day. But anyways, I had went out for a weekend trip to Modesto with some friends, and it was a pretty shitty weekend. We all rode together. There was some drama and fighting, and Jimmy Belligerent popped out, and I used to get really emotional too when I was drinking. And anyways, it was a bad weekend, and I could not wait to get home. I just wanted to sleep it off. I was kind of over it. And I got home and I just remember walking straight to my room. I hadn't, checked in with my grandpa or anything in a few days. And he was laying in his bed and watching TV. I didn't say anything to him. And I went in my room and I passed out. When I got up the next day, I found him dead in his chair. And I can't tell you how awful that made me feel. It's almost like I can feel it right now. That just the shame, the guilt. So what if I wasn't so drunk and hungover and woke up earlier? What if I could have helped him? He had clogged arteries and his heart gave out. He died in his chair. And I had to call 911 and, the whole rigmarole of someone dying. And after that, I didn't care about anything really anymore. And I just wanted to do as much as I could get my hands on of whatever you had or whatever was available. And most of the time it was meth. And yeah, and I started doing a lot. And it got pretty bad. I started hearing voices and living in this false reality of psychosis, and that's kind of what I want to focus on is in this little segment here is the psychosis and the mind bending effects that meth has on us if we do too much, and how it can alter our lives, and some people never make it back from it. And it's really intriguing to me today, um, when I think about all the stuff that was going on, and how I eventually got my mind back, and how I work with other alcoholics today that go through the same things, and I'm really intrigued when I hear what they have to say. So yeah, I couldn't go a day without drinking whiskey or smoking dope. I was very suicidal in the end. And with the psychosis, I remember exactly when it happened. I was hanging out at a friend's house with him and his girlfriend. And we just got done smoking a bowl of meth. And I was extremely thirsty. Meth gives you like terrible cotton mouth. Just dry, chapped lips, and I needed some water. I was like, felt dizzy and stuff. So I went into his kitchen to get some water, and I was drinking the water, and not too long after drinking the water, I was just like sitting there, and I kind of like started convulsing, just like convulsing, standing up, not sure what was happening to me. And this like apparition of a Joker popped out of a box, pointed at me, started laughing like an evil laugh, and it said this: Jimmy, I just unlocked the door to your brain. I just unlocked the door to your brain. And then, like, continued with the evil laugh. I quit convulsing and went about the rest of my day, but that was the moment. Like, literally within, I don't know, minutes after that, something like went haywire in my mind and in my brain, that I started hearing voices. I started creating dialogue in my mind. I heard people's voices. It was insane. And I lived that way for, I don't even know, 6 to 8 months before I got clean and sober. And then another almost 10 months dead, clean and sober, still hearing voices and those internal dialogues and things like that. It was crazy. It was absolutely insane. I don't wish that on my worst enemy. But I think about that and how that Joker popped out, said, I just unlocked the door to your brain. And then all of a sudden, I start hearing these voices and this dialogue and started thinking all kinds of crazy things. So I thought that I was getting videotaped everywhere I went and that I was on a hidden camera reality TV show. And I thought that everybody knew about it, everybody was in on it, and everybody was watching me live on the computer. And even though I could not find any cameras, they were there. I thought they were behind the mirrors. I thought they were everywhere, and I thought it was absolutely 100% real. The voices I heard in my head were like voices of my friends commenting on what I was doing. What was kind of odd about that is that if they worked during the day, I wouldn't hear their voice. But after working hours, I would hear like dialogue, like two friends was watching it together, and they would be commenting on what I was doing, and I would hear that, and it would make me think that it was real for some reason. So I thought I could like hear people through the wires or through my thoughts. It was nuts. It was crazy. Or another good example of what was going on in my mind is if I was somewhere and I seen somebody, you know, down the road, like in a car, talking to somebody, my mind would make up the dialogue of what they were saying. So I thought that I could hear exactly what people were saying, and I thought everybody was talking about me, and or just a random ass dialogue that I could hone in on. I heard celebrity voices. I used to hear like E40's voice. I used to hear Doobie's voice. I used to hear Too Short. I used to hear Jay Z. I used to hear um, Paul Wall. Just like all these people's voices. Like I thought everybody in the country was watching me, and that part of the gig with the show, and it was produced by MTV, so I thought it was an MTV show, is that nobody could tell me that I was getting videotaped, and I couldn't let the cat out of the bag either, because if anybody said anything, then I would miss out on the $1 million check at the end of the show. And I thought this check was going to be presented to me by E40, and that I was also going to get this record deal and signed to Sick With It Records. Insane. Absolutely insane. And my mind ran with that. And I thought it was absolutely, positively 100% real. I made sure that I matched every day. I would look where I thought the camera was. When people weren't around, I was like endorsing cereal boxes and foods, thinking that the cereal and the foods that I was endorsing on camera, that I was going to get kickbacks or money for it. Like I was absolutely brain fried and crazy in this meth induced psychosis. And so I thought all my financial problems were going to be solved. And I remember going to hang out with this dope dealer, this old friend of mine, and running bags of dope around Vallejo for them at like 2, 3, 4 in the morning, blasting my music as loud as I could because I thought that the cops um, knew about me too and weren't going to arrest me. I just got lucky. I also remember a time where the voices were loud and they were telling me to go to this particular house on a hill in Vallejo. So I get in my car and I'm driving and I'm kind of going where the voices tell me to go. And I pull into this random ass driveway up on the hill. And I pull into the driveway and I get out and the voices are telling me that, you know, the show's going to end. You just got to go in there. I literally open the front door and I see this man sleeping on his recliner, and I got spooked and I shut the door and I got my car and I left. If that dude wasn't sleeping, he could have shot me or something or whooped my ass or whatever. I was out there. I was crazy. Uh, Completely out of touch with reality. I was in my own reality. And that's kind of what like schizophrenia, psychosis, it's like whatever is going on in our mind that just misfired or something's not attached correctly or something is just off a little bit and now we're on this completely different tangent and it's insane. It was insane. And then after living that way for months on end, it gets old. It gets really, really old. And you get tired of it. You want the show to end. Every day is like Groundhog's Day. You think that this is going to be the day. This is going to be the day that the show ends. I get my $1 million check and my record contract from E40. And it's all going to be over. And I'm the next big celebrity, the next big star. All my financial problems are going to solve. And every day it doesn't end. And so I get irritated and I get agitated and I start complaining to the cameras that aren't really there. I start threatening suicide. Like, what do I have to do to get you guys to stop? Do I need to kill myself? It was insanity. I lived that way for a long time. I remember I stayed up about 24 days one time. 24 days in a row. I don't advise that. I've seen lots of ghosts. I used to see shadow demons. And this is another thing, man. So I've seen a lot of visual stuff. And I mean, most people would like to play it off as a hallucination or, being up for so long or whatever, But knowing what I know today about the spirit world, and I literally call meth the devil, right? I feel like the drug meth is the absolute devil. And it like invites all those negative energies and entities into our life. It's almost like we're inviting them in when we use it, which creates a whole nother subcategory of what could potentially cause the psychosis. Maybe it's a spirit attachment or something, some type of energy that, got interlocked in our brain or whatever. I don't know. That might, be too far fetched for some people, but you never know. I'm pretty open minded and I won't rule anything out when it comes to that because I lived it. And yeah, I remember laying in bed sometimes and I would just be sitting there and I would see what I thought were angels flying over me. And the angels were faceless, but I knew who they were. And I also seen shadow demons, like just dark energies and entities. It would just like hover over me and they would fly in and out of me. And I used to think, oh man, I'm just hallucinating. But maybe not. Maybe that was actually real or there was some truth to it, you know. And kind of ironically, when we get sober, um, part of the program that I'm in is to find spirituality or God or whatever you want to chop that up as, and you know, clear the clear a channel inside of us through inventories and whatnot to expel the obsession to drink and get rid of those things. Yeah. So a lot of spiritual warfare going on in that realm. Uh, Stuff that I can't explain. I was skeptical of God. I had no hope. I was living a miserable existence. I don't know if anybody can relate to this. I know some people can, but I got to the point where I hated the way that I felt when I was drinking and using, and I also hated the way that I felt when I was sober. There was no happy anymore. Like I said, every day was like Groundhog's Day. I'm irritated, I'm agitated, I'm not sleeping well. The voices are loud, they don't shut up. Part of the psychosis, too, is that I thought everybody could hear my thoughts. That is a terrible place to be because if you're a human being, you got some pretty messed up thoughts. Let me tell you that. Everybody has some sick thoughts deep down in the depths of their mind, and I thought all my thoughts were on display. And I thought I was even getting videotaped when I was taking a shower. It was just, it was bad. So I'm just trying to illustrate this and paint this picture of how my mind misfired, and now I'm in this alternate universe, this alternate tangent of what I believe is real, and nothing has happened the way that I think it's supposed to, and nothing is coming to fruition. So I'm irritated and agitated, and it's getting worse every day, and I can't sleep. The voices are loud. I'm having constant thoughts of suicide. I'm just getting closer and closer to death. There was a few times in the end where I just felt like my heart was going to explode, and I would like stop doing whatever I was doing. I'd have to like lay down on my back and take some deep breaths and drink water and like not do drugs for a while. I mean, it was like I really thought I was about to die. I thought my heart was going to explode, and I was also thinking of ways to take myself out because it was a miserable existence, and this world would be better without me. That's a terrible place to be, rock bottom, basically. And this is what happened. This is what really started me on my journey of recovery. So I started going to outpatient rehab programs and started to try to attend meetings. I lost my job yet again in the union through drugs and alcohol. Going to work loaded, spun out of my mind. It didn't take too long for people to catch on, and I was just a wreck. And I cannot string together any real amount of clean time. You know, 60 days was the hardest one for me to get. I was in and out. 18 days, 33 days, 40 days, 44 days, 12 days, 10 days, just in and out, revolving door. But during those relapses, I was going to meetings and these rehab, outpatient rehab programs and groups, but I wasn't doing anything other than sitting there. I still hadn't, talked about what was really going on with me, the voices that I was hearing, or anything like that. Um, and then I relapsed again. I think I had about 18 days on this relapse. And it led me to 7-Eleven to get a Pabst Blue Ribbon tall can. I didn't want to feel whatever I was feeling that day. That tall can triggered my allergy, led me to go back and get another. And then I needed to go walk down the street to get a pint of, I think it was Kessler or Southern Comfort. And then I drank that. And then the voices are telling me that my show's going to end at Gentleman Jim's in Vallejo. So I commenced to get in my car and drive to Vallejo drunk. I show up at Gentleman Jim's and I walk in there and nobody's there. Nobody's there that's supposed to be there. And I don't have any money. I just spent it on that pint. So I will basically walk in and I walk out. And I'm fucking pissed. I'm tired of it. And I just remember driving down the road to where the Islander Motel was, and getting out of my car and screaming at my car in Vallejo. I'm yelling at the cameras and everybody watching that I don't think you understand how serious I am. I'm really going to kill myself right now. And I meant it. That was what I was going to do. So I got in my car and I started driving back from Vallejo to Fairfield. And I'm crying. And I'm emotional. And I'm upset. And I'm suicidal. And for whatever reason, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, intervened. Or should I say, I finally reached out for help. And I said a prayer. And it was a simple one. And I hear this prayer a lot in stories that I hear in recovery. And it's basically just, God help me. But I said it with way more emotion than that. I had snot coming out of my nose and I screamed out for help. God help me. And I was crying and I was upset. And I honestly feel like that was the first sincere prayer that I ever said in my life that I meant from the depth and the deepest part of my soul. And you never realize God in the moment. But when you look back, you can see God's hand in everything. I love that. I love that line. And that's so true. I didn't realize how powerful that prayer was when I said it, but I didn't die. And guess where I ended up? I ended up at a 12-step meeting. I drove straight there and I was drunk. And it was the end of a 6:30 meeting in the evening. And I raised my hand and said, that I'm an alcoholic and I need help. I don't know how not to drink. I just know that I don't want to drink no more. And that was the first time in my life that at group level I admitted that I had a problem and I needed help. And that was kind of the beginning of my journey. Everything else flowered from that moment. I don't even really count anything before that because I didn't do shit. I didn't do nothing for myself before that other than hope the magic sober fairy would sprinkle dust on me and my life would change just by sitting in a seat. That's not how it works. It takes a lot of work to change your life. It takes a lot of work to stay clean and sober. And then it's once you put the drink down, you're still left with your feelings and your emotions and everything that's going on inside you. All that stuff that I talked about earlier in this podcast, all of it was there. I had never dealt with it, and I got to deal with it, you know, through the process. And what a wonderful, powerful process that was. And maybe I'll get into the process and the things that I did in the next podcast because I'm already at 47 minutes or so. But yeah, that's kind of my story up until I got sober. The parts of it. I like to think that I'm a miracle today. You know, almost 44 years old, and I'll be 44 in April, and in June this year I'll have 18 years clean and sober, and that is a blessing. That's something that I never thought I would accomplish. It's not something that I thought would be who I am. I used to think that I would be dead at 40, and I was okay with it. I was proud at how much I could drink and use, and almost like I wore it like a badge of honor. And I would have sold myself short for living my life that way. So many wonderful, life changing things have happened to me as a result of just not drinking and using. The best thing, one of the best things, there's a lot of best things, but one of the best things is that I don't hear those voices anymore. They went away, and I heard them the first 9 months. You know what happened there is that as a result of doing the program and doing work on myself, I turned around and started helping others. And it wasn't long after I started helping others and doing meeting with them and helping them like somebody did for me that I woke up and the voices were gone. Powerful stuff, man. That may not mean shit to you. I mean nothing to you, but to me, it's a priceless gift. And I honestly feel like I'm living on borrowed time, and I have a second opportunity at a normal life just by doing some simple things and diving deep internally and trying to uncover the things inside me which have been blocking me from the grace of God and the spirit of the universe. Um, Here I am doing podcasts now, talking about things I want to talk about, not worrying about what you think about me. There's so much peace and freedom in that. Not everybody's going to like me. I'm sure that some people hate me. If everybody in this world liked me, I think there would be something wrong. We're all human beings. But anyways, thank you guys for listening. If you did, I truly appreciate you watching my podcasts and leaving comments and likes. If you like the content, please share it with somebody. And I'll catch you on the next one.